All right, friends, we're here. This conversation is called Take It This Far, and I know there was a really wordy explanation as to what we're going to talk about today, but a lot of what we want to share is kind of, each of us has a journey that started in one place and maybe ended up someplace totally different, and each of those steps informed each other. And so in each of our journeys, we've been able to be where we're at by taking it this far. And so one, we want to say that we are open to questions. We want this to be a really engaging conversation, like not a, wait till the end for 10 minutes. If you have a question, please throw your hand up. There's a couple of people in here with mics. And when we have some space and time, like we will get to you. So please feel free to interrupt the conversation if you have questions about what somebody said here on stage. And if you have a question and follow-up, feel free to find us throughout the rest of the conference. Everybody here is definitely pretty friendly. So starting with Esther, one of my favorites. This is the first time me and Esther meet in real life after like 10 years of following each other on the internet, so she's outside. How many of y'all know about Playa Society in here? Ooh, okay. This is one that was been waving a little flag, let me tell you. Before this whole moment, Esther was really out here, and so I really want to talk about, starting with you, what that turning point was in your career that kind of led you to taking it this far. And if there was a moment that you kind of knew that you wanted to take it this far.
Yeah, I'll start by saying I always say that, like, Playa Society, I did not see it coming for a very long time. I started playing basketball. I did have a passion, like, for designing and fashion. Since I was probably in elementary school, I thought I would go to, FIT and, work for a brand one day. But when I was a sophomore in high school, I started playing basketball. So everything changed. I was obsessed with hooping, and I wanted that Division I scholarship and to take that path. So that's what I was doing. And it wasn't until I was playing overseas, I was getting my master's degree, and I was doing my master's thesis on just the underrepresentation of women in sports. And when I started that project, I was just trying to get the grade, right? I was just trying to get my degree. But I uncovered so much, and I realized that there were so many shared experiences between female athletes, women in sports, especially basketball culture. We're still shopping in the men's department for our favorite products. We're trying to put our fits together based off of, what's not necessarily created and geared towards us. And then I realized that there were just a lot of excuses. We don't know what to make for women. We don't get it. We don't, all of these things that were being said. And so really, I just wanted to prove everybody wrong. And I wanted to show everybody, like, no, this is how you can do it with no resources, limited resources, no funding, no connections, no network. I just wanted to show them, like, if I could do it with so little, y'all are just making excuses. So it was really just that, and it's blown up since then, and I didn't see it coming, to be honest.
Anybody else, Jamerson?
For me, I mean, number one, just being here, from Michigan and everything, the industry during the time.
Hometown hero?
A little bit, a little something. I mean, I rep Flint and Detroit. I mean, I feel like once you move away, all of this becomes relative, and I do it for the state. It's not just for me, it's for everybody here, and to be a tree that people can pick off of and be somebody that can be knowledgeable and come back to where this industry here is kind of small. It's not as big and as robust as it is in New York and LA. And it's been so many different times in my career where I had to take it this far or take it far or take it farther. But what made me take it this far was I was here. I had been working at Foot Locker, being a manager at the store, and I thought my career path was like, oh, I'm gonna be a manager at the Foot Locker. I'm gonna be a RVP, a DM, like the basic. Like, I'm gonna be an RVP.
What was your big dream when you were like, was it to be the manager or like?
My big dream at that point was to be a DM or an RVP. Like, that's the thing. And I was like, no, what about getting corporate in Foot Locker? Like, what about that? And I always had an affinity for design, streetwear design and sneaker design. Me and my brother used to run a brand in the city called like West Side Society, and my OG is here too, Rick. We used to drive down to Burn Rubber, and just to have a chance to just like learn about the culture and be in the culture and glean from them and learn. And it's so funny because I used to send like blank paper bags. Our mascot was blank paper bags. So we sent blank paper bags to the store, and we came one day and Rick was like, "Man, we thought you was about to blow the store up. We didn't know who was sending us blank paper bags." So, but doing that and understanding like the industry here was kind of small at the time. This is like what, 2010. Detroit was still trying to make its way back. Flint was still trying to make its way back, and there wasn't a lot of outlets to be able to do streetwear and sneakers on the high level. So I was researching. I was going back and forth to New York and walking around and going to the Staple Pigeons and going to all the streetwear stores out there and paying attention to all the blogs. And then just one day, I remember I came home and I told my dad, I'm like, yo, when I graduate in May, I'm gonna move. And everybody just kind of looked at me like I was crazy. Like, you about to do what? Yeah, I'm about to move to New York. Well, why you want to go that far? And my sis, Mama Soul, was like, no, I'll go. Because how you gonna win if you don't want to risk nothing? How you gonna get where you go if you're not willing to be uncomfortable for a while and see what happens? Home gonna be here. Home gonna be here. You can always come home. Your family here, your friends here. We gonna love you. We gonna accept you back if you go and it don't make it. But that put the battery in my back to be like, I'm gonna go to New York. I have nothing. I sold my car. I sold my entire shoe collection. Had a couple $1,000s. I was sleeping couch to couch. I was almost homeless 2-3 times. Like, it'd come down to the day before, and God would put somebody call me, and I would end up being on somebody else's couch for another month or another week until like the next break hit, and the next break hit, and the next break hit. It took me a year to have my own house in New York. And then when I got it, sorry, I'm gonna tie it up, but then when I got it, I'm in a twin bedroom. I can reach my fridge from my bed.
Very, very New York.
Wake up at 2 a.m., fridge, get a drink of orange juice, roll back over. But just like in New York, battling like rats and roaches in the studio apartment, but believing that, yo, God, you put me here for a reason, and I'm here, and we taking it this far, and I'm gonna trust you to where we're going. That would make me take it this far. I hit a glass ceiling kind of here, and I needed to see what I could do outside of the city.
That was a testimony. That was definitely a testimony. I want to see if we have any questions real quick in the audience. Throw your hand up. I got a text. We got one right over here in the back.
What made you never quit? Like, you could have came home as many times as you could, but like, what kept you going? Because
Passion.
you can get homesick.
Homesick was crazy. I mean, I don't think I started feeling comfortable in New York for 5 years. But it's just, I don't know, you just gotta have, it's just grit. It was just perseverance. It was just like, yo, I know, I mean, you from here, we from here, we know what this is. You know what I'm saying? We know what we coming back to. And I was like, it's no way I'm gonna be able to be a tree for my family and for my friends and people in the industry if I don't stay this out. Like, I'm the lifeline for the next generation of designers and people from Flint that may want to go to New York. Even Detroit, like it's Michigan. Even people in here, like Jashawn is my man's, and he talked to me last year, and he was in New York doing this thing, same thing I was doing. He just landed a job at Macy's being a buyer, and he's from Pinso. It's like, if I would have never stayed on my journey, me and him would have never had that conversation to put the battery in his back to know that he could make it. And that was for me, it was a why. It wasn't just for me, it was for everybody. It was for my family. It was for something bigger than me. And I think that's what kept me going. And man, we just from here, man, it's just grit. We just got it. We just got it in us, you know?
I think that's a good segue to our next question, starting with you, Herb. But talking about like all the people that questioned you, Jamerson, I'm sure everybody on this stage had somebody that questioned them, or with myself, questioning myself a whole bunch. Like, is this the right move? Is this the right risk to take? I'm curious to know how you approached that, Herb, and everybody else on the stage, to follow people that had maybe some conflicting opinions about what you thought was best for yourself.
Well, I feel like you have that kind of self-doubt too, often. So like conquering that first, I think is gonna give you the confidence to like interact whenever somebody else doubts you. You know, I think for one, just being like young, black, like coming to different brands with like a business proposal, really, like making sure that you got your stuff together, specifically if it's like a new idea, you know, the idea of like trying to make a festival like educational and fun, you know. For some people that don't make sense, like, you know, especially if you're talking to...
Why don't you tell those who don't know what Sneaker PDX is?
Yeah, well, Sneaker Week PDX, basically like our mission is to connect the sneaker community to the footwear industry. So we're based in Portland, where all the Nikes, Adidas, Under Armour, King, Columbia, the list goes on, Lululemon, Hoka, everybody's out there. And it's a lot of people that want to get there, but they just don't have access. So basically, we create a week-long series of events that introduce you to those career opportunities if you don't know what they are, but also like gives you an opportunity to connect with people that are in the industry. So to like pitch that to somebody and they ain't never seen it before, and you like, you trying to say like, man, this is cool, people gonna show up. Like, they're like, well, what product are we selling? Like, how do we benefit from this? And it's like, you have to educate them and make sure that you doing your work to where you feel like you are confident in what you pitching, and whatever self-doubt you had, you have to kind of like breathe that out so that you coming up there confident and you're saying like, hey, the investment is, you say that you have these community initiatives, or you say that you want to invest in diversity, like this is how you can, show up. And so it just took me some time to be confident, but I will say I came from that like background, working at Pencil, Dwayne doing something very similar in regards of like proving the industry that investing in talent is like the future, like there's no way around it. So I definitely leveraged a lot of that as like an example, and the idea of like, when you say you're doing it for you or you're doing it for your people, it's like, how do we make it more accessible to so many others, because like I was blessed to get introduced and connect and, work my way up, but like there's so many people out there that's like looking for a way, so.
And Brett, I'm sure, like, maybe there were some questions about leaving the video game industry to come to Nike, but then the photography thing on the side, and then, Bloop, I want to get married on TV, right? So how did you deal with that?
Yeah, before I say anything, I want to say that I came to the first one of these in 2019 in DC. I was in footwear for literally a year and a half, and to see where this is now is so beautiful to see, and I'm humbled to be a part of this, really.
They took it this far.
Yeah, I took it this far.
Yeah.
Hey, plug. Yeah, so my journey has been, I feel like, incredibly unique because, being in footwear, I hear a lot of people talk about like, I grew up and I knew this shoe and I collected these and I remember when these dropped. Like, I was aware of sneakers and I like sneakers, but like we were so poor we couldn't afford them. So it was kind of like, I'm not even going to go down a rabbit hole of wanting these Jordans because I know I can't get them. But my journey led me into video games, and I never pictured myself in working in footwear. I made some career moves. We were just talking about kind of believing in yourself and whatnot. And I've just had a lot of organic things happen to me in my life that I just really had to pay attention to signs and kind of connect dots and say, this is something guiding me somewhere that I didn't envision myself, but everything that I see is saying that this is the right move. So that's really what led me to footwear. I was working in games, I was living down in Miami, and I just started designing shoes for fun, literally. And with my background in 3D, I started doing 3D renderings and visualizations, and I made an Instagram page and started just posting my work. I didn't put any pictures of myself. It was literally just the work. I had about 100 followers, so not a big audience at all. And people talk about like the right person seeing your things, and people pay attention to engagement and numbers. I had 100 followers. I got a DM from the head of 3D at Cole Haan in New Hampshire with 100 followers. That DM turned into a job offer.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I was no footwear experience at all. I moved to New Hampshire. I'm the only person of color, I think probably on the whole corporate side. And then, a year and a half later, somebody came calling from Nike. I moved to Portland. So at the gist of it, it's just not being afraid to take that leap. And if you believe in yourself and feel that you're going on the right path, like I never needed validation from anybody. I knew what I was doing.
I heard that.
I did it. But I had a lot of people question me like, yo, what do you know about shoes?
But when you have that confidence,
Yeah.
it's like you really don't even be hearing that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, but I know what I'm doing, so.
Yeah. So anyway, self-confidence can be a powerful tool.
Amen. Well, these two on the couch have done some amazing storytelling, and I think it's a testament to you being both contributors to the culture, but also still active members of the culture. And I'm curious to know, especially Esther, like redefining the female athlete, right, with what you've done, and Jamerson with your storytelling over the past couple years with Leader Quality. Did you know that you were creating something new in your industry, and kind of what did that feel like?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, obviously I saw the void. So I went into it saying, this doesn't exist, why? It's crazy, and I almost expected it to be, I don't want to say harder, but it was like all the excuses that they made up about women's sports. I was like, why am I able to like create all of this dope merch or like, you know, have this vision and nobody else, like, you know, in this entire industry? A lot of things that happened when I first started Playa Society is people would say to me like, oh, like, we have no idea what to do. And I'm just like, why? Like, how? And then, like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the players? Because the players, like, you know, they were wearing Playa Society, like, when I had one t-shirt design. And, you know, a lot of this was kind of like just has evolved, you know, co-created almost with the community, with the players. And so all of these excuses, I was just questioning them. And then, so I started in 2018 with one t-shirt design, the female athlete t-shirt. And I sold that for 3 years. The goal was just to get everybody I could, like sell as many as I could. But then WNBA players started wearing them, and at one point, everybody in the league had it. Everybody was wearing it. And so that opened the door for me to have a conversation. Honestly, I had no experience, like trained experience in design or in the industry. I was just doing everything I could, right? Just because I believed in this idea, this vision. And I cared so much about the players and what they wanted to wear. So I think I just like reached out to somebody that worked for a team. They gave me an email address for somebody at the league. I emailed somebody at the league and was like, can we have a meeting? And next thing you know, I have a meeting set up with the WNBA.
Had you ever had a meeting like that before?
So no, and like I didn't even know how to pitch. So like at that point, I was just like, terrified, essentially.
I
was
asked
like,
because a lot of us, I'm sure, have found ourselves in a situation like
so
that.
you're like doing all this work and you believe that it's gonna happen, but then it really happens and you're like, wait a minute, what did I just set myself up for? Because am I ready? And so in those moments for me, you just over prepare. It's like game day, right? You might not be ready to play the Giants, like the UConns or whoever it is that you're playing against, but you gotta be ready, right? Because the game's about to happen. So that's really how I approached that meeting. So I went into that meeting. I don't even know if they knew what I was gonna do. I didn't even know what I was gonna do, because like that morning I was like putting these designs, this pitch together, and I thought it was practice. To be honest, I was like, at the very least, I'm gonna go into this meeting. I'm gonna learn something, and then maybe 2-3 years down the road, this is gonna come together. I went into that meeting, pitched this whole concept of designing WNBA merch that prior to that meeting, the people that I talked to in positions of power told me was the worst idea ever, right? They were like, that's a terrible business plan. You should change your business plan. So I made this pitch. After the pitch, they said, yeah. Like they were like, okay, let's do it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so really it's just a matter of, I don't even know if I'm answering your question at this point. But
I mean, that was the moment you realized, I think, that you were making something new.
Exactly,
right?
and then we did the first drop in 2021, and it sold out in less than an hour. And so that's really, I mean, I think Bima said it earlier, sell-through is the best proof of concept,
Amen.
right? And so once I sold out, I was like, and that same collection sold out 6, 7, 8 times over the course of a year. And so that's really all the proof that I needed to just keep building.
Period. Jamerson, I mean, look, it's hard to get your shit, Jamerson. Your shit be sold out. Okay.
I was so enthralled in what she was talking about. I don't even know what you asked me.
Was there a moment that you knew that you were creating something new in your lane?
I think there were moments. I think in this industry, you're either, it's kind of really segmented to that time. Like, it's either like, oh, you're a host, or you're a designer, or you're a marketer, or you're behind the scenes. And I think like over my career and being in different places, all of those things started to work together rather than being pigeonholed into one thing. And with leader, I think it just, for me, it wasn't like, oh, let me make something new. It was just really embodying who I am. And I feel like who I am and what I do is embodied by the people that I touch and the people that I talk to. So leader just became like this thing. It was a creative hub. It's where me and my homies hang out and we make stuff for ourselves and our brand. We do stuff for other brands. Like we've done stuff with Sharifa, and it was like they want, well, we know what you do. We want you to do that for us because it feels authentic and it feels good and it speaks to us. And then like Dream was like, well, we want you to do that for us. We want you to come design the whole collection for our festival because what you do, we feel it. Like it feels like something. It feels like us. It feels like culture. I mean, being in the culture instead of going to an agency or somebody outside the culture. And I think it was like a culmination of just like all these things coming together. And then Avia called. Nobody had heard from Avia since 1992, you know? They called and was like, yo, and I don't got a bunch of followers. I got 8,000 followers. The brand got 4,000 maybe. And usually like you gotta have 100,000 for people to like notice you and do that. But I think it was just the body of work of being authentic that let me know I was making something new. That I was making something for the culture. I was making something that inspired creatives to be leaders. Because I feel like a lot of brands and things are just really focused around consumerism. Oh yeah, I want you to buy something better. Mine's like, nah. And mine's like, come into the community. Come into the community. I'm not exclusive. I don't need everybody to be celebrity at Leader. Nah, you got 200 followers, you can come to our event at Extra Butter and hang out. You gonna be there with Nigel or somebody, but it's just like that. Like I don't feel like it needs to be inclusive, and that's what being leader and leader quality is about. So we got the Avia collab, and that was crazy. I didn't know what was happening. We went in and developed the shoe and got it all together. And, yo, we sold out we sold 700 shoes in 2 days from a brand that nobody had heard about.
Amen.
In forever.
Wow.
You know?
Yep.
So it's just, I think that's when I figured out I was creating my own lane, and then with that campaign, bringing it back to the school and having my homeboy beating on the table and somebody rapping, homegirl in the corner like selling earrings and stuff and hustling, and then you got the class clowns over there messing with the art kids. It's just like being authentic to our culture and being authentic to myself and the things that I see that relates to everybody else, and then just that expanding into like hosting and everything else. It just became like this beautiful like mix of my career. So
no, I mean, we just joked backstage, like you're like the fucking Montel of sneakers
I'm
right
Montel
now.
of sneakers. Let me go ahead and shave my head bald next week then.
I'm like, the boy is everywhere. With the black boy joy is real, and the boy is everywhere. Amazon Music, Nike app, I'm like, everywhere I turn, the boy's face is there. What y'all are really talking about is innovation. We have 13 minutes left, so I'm gonna try to like wrap it up. If you have a question, throw your hand up, so when I look back out, I can call upon you. But Brett Herbert, starting with you, Brett, how do you foster that kind of innovation in teams when you're working in-house at a corporation? Because this is kind of like the independent founder creative journey. How do you foster that innovation in teams, and how do you kind of make sure that everybody's voice is heard and that you're able to develop that and push a product or a brand forward?
Corporate is a different beast. You know, I've only ever worked in corporate. I've never worked in, kind of doing my own brand, so I don't have any experience in that space. But on the corporate side, there's policies and there's HR and there's so much about relationships that you just have to be aware of, and you can't really go into it thinking like, I know the right way, everybody's just gonna follow along. So you really have to be very strategic in how you bring things to the table. But I could say for me personally, at least with my role now, compared to what I was hired into Nike to do, which is a 3D footwear designer, I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit, but I literally created my own role. My role did not exist. And I was able to do that really by knowing that I had insight and a skill set to bring something new to the table that I felt could bring things forward. And sometimes you just have to show people what's possible. Like a lot of people need to see something to believe it. Like it sounds like a simple concept, but sometimes just trying to sell somebody on an idea, they're like, yeah, I get it, but maybe they're not a creative. Maybe they don't have your understanding of the technology. But there's no denying putting something on the table, or in my case, showing somebody something on a monitor, because I work in 3D, it's like, I get it now. And once they make that connection, it's like, thank you for bringing this to the table. I didn't know we needed this thing, or I didn't know this was valuable. Now let's do more of that. So you really have to just know how to move first and foremost. But once you understand that, not being afraid to bring new thoughts and ideas to the table. And in my experience, even being, a minority in a big company that does not have a lot of minority, representation, you still have to be comfortable knowing that people may not accept it, but again, I was talking about self-confidence, but I believe this is the right way forward. So.
And Herb, you often partner, and yet you come from this world as well, and now you're a partner to try to educate in a new way, right? What is that experience like?
I think it's fun for me, you know. I did go to school for design. I went to school for industrial design, and one of like the impactful moments for me, like working with Dwayne, you know, he's done product like his whole career, and he built this school, and we were chopping it up, and he was like, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as product design. He was like, you just applying design to business. And my mind just was blown from then. And that was like a shifting moment for me. I started just looking at everything just like the same process of product, like, so starting with a problem, like doing the research, like investigating, like entrenching yourself in like who's experiencing that problem, and then being creative and like just creating the solution. So for me, it's just like, it's fun to speak with a brand and say, hey, we really want to focus on this, or we're really struggling in this department, like we're trying to put more resources here. You know, I'm like, okay, boom, here's the problem. And then like the fun part for me is, you know, we look at ourselves as like also like an agency in a way where we're creating those like experiential marketing opportunities to solve those problems. So making it fun, making it engaging. And I kind of always feel like I am kind of like the end consumer too, because it's like, I always wanted to get into the industry.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about places like Pencil, and I didn't know about, you know, marketing. I didn't know about, you know, color material design. I didn't know about any of those things. And so I feel like it's an advantage when I am sitting there, you know, and they are expressing this problem, and I'm like, you know, not to say like we got all the answers, but it's like this is what we're here for, you know, like it definitely gives some reassurance to me and like what we're creating, like organically. But it's also like very purposeful, because for me, it's like, and no shade on any product designers, but I really feel like applying like design to like business or like social problems, you know, I really feel like that's like where I belong, you know, and I know a lot of people do that through product, you know, they get the message out, but like when I meet somebody and say like, hey man, I went to Sneaker Week, and like later, you know, now, like I literally was talking to somebody that was telling me like she went to the first Sneaker Week, and that's how she got connected for her first job. And I was like, man, like, you know, that's like what we do it for, you know?
Yeah.
And so I would just say like anybody that is there that feels creative, like don't limit yourself to one specific like thing. Like if you're doing shirts, if you're doing apparel, like you can easily be doing that in like marketing and business. You know, it's a lot of the same principles, a lot of the same processes, and I just feel like, yeah, just don't sell yourself short, you know? And you could be bringing that and like, you know, to whatever table that you're sitting next to, if you ever are just one-on-one trying to collaborate with somebody, or if you find yourself in another opportunity where a brand is looking for a specific position or, you know, collaboration.
Do we have questions? We have about 6 minutes left, so I just want to look out to the audience. No. Oh, one right here. Two. One. We have two.
Hey, this is Paxton from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Work for Wolverine Worldwide. I got a question for Brett. Where do you see the industry going right now with augmented reality and the ability to try on shoes before you actually buy them, so you can know what everything looks like on your foot the right way, with the right color, the right lighting, all that kind of stuff?
It's powerful. I think one of the biggest things is, like, there's always cool new tech, right? Like people like me, I see those types of things and I get excited about it. But I always wonder, like how technical is the average consumer, right? I think things like that, there's gonna be a group of everybody that's like, I'm into AR. I know what AR is. Like I talk to people, they don't even, what's that? AR, VR. So I feel like with things like that, at times you can be talking to just a small pocket of the consumer that's really in the know about that. But that doesn't discount, I think, the value of it. I think that giving people, this is becoming a much more digital world. I think giving people more access and ways to see product that they're going to be spending money on in different ways, I think it's cool. But I feel like everybody just has to get more technical from a consumer standpoint.
One right here in the front.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tuck from Chicago. I think when it comes to the person's journey, perfect. Thank you. Sometimes success isn't defined by like all your accolades and all that stuff. It's defined by setback and failure. So for the whole entire panel, what is the most important failure in your career so far?
Dang.
The most important failure.
I'm gonna say like, I always find something every year. This will be our 8th year hosting Sneaker Week, and every year we like shooting for the moon. You know, like the idea of like growing a business, you gotta like put yourself out there to grow and to scale. So there's like failures every year, to be honest with you. And just one important thing that was like shared and passed down for me was like, just don't do it again. You know, like if you fail, don't make that same mistake again. You know, and I'm open to failure. You know, I feel like it's just part of the game. Oh boy, yesterday was like, the only way to run a business or to learn how to have a business is to run a business is like, you gonna fail like all the time. Just like don't make those same mistakes.
Mm-hmm. And to his point, I mean, kind of, but I don't believe in failure. I believe you live or you learn. Word to mama soul.
Yeah.
Like it's you live, you didn't really fail, and if you think you fail up.
Yeah.
Learn from it. My biggest thing is when I had my first job at Staple, got laid off there, and it was some nepotism going on in the background and stuff. But I digress. But I mean, basically, it was like, yo, well, you're not a designer. That's what was told to me. Okay, cool. You don't think I'm a designer because I couldn't hit your touch points. Well, I'm gonna hone my skills enough and learn. That's not a failure. That's a learning lesson. And I became a better designer. And I ended up having collaborations and doing murals and stuff with the Pistons. It's like, if you fail, use it as motivation. Use it as something to, okay, I need to learn something more. Not as I failed and I'm gonna hang my head and sulk. Yeah, cry for a day or two, but you gotta get back up and try again.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing. I mean, for me, when I picked up a basketball, I recently realized that the reason I picked up a basketball wasn't to be the greatest basketball player, obviously, in the world, right? It was to create the best women's sports merch in the game. And so, but when I was playing basketball, I was so locked in on this idea of playing forever. Like, I need to play for as long as I can, go overseas, play, go coach, and like win some championships. But literally a week before I went overseas to hoop, I was diagnosed with a heart condition. And so that obviously held me back a bit. I still said I'm gonna play one season. We're gonna play, we're gonna just pray on it. I played one season overseas and I was like, well, this is probably it for me. Like, I don't wanna keep doing this. And so, as an athlete, you see that as like, man, this big failure. I had this huge plan to keep playing basketball, but had that not happened, I would have never realized that there was so much more potential to tap into and that there was even a greater purpose for me ever picking up a basketball in the first place, so.
Well, we have about 1 minute and 30 seconds left.
I'm sorry, can I say one more thing?
Of course you
Sorry, y'all.
want to say one
This is my
more
last.
thing.
This is my last thing about failure. And I owe it because my
Let me
dad
say
is here,
something real fast.
and my dad has owned a business in Michigan in Flint for how many years, Dad? 30? 30 years. And I think failure also, I learned from him. I've seen him be in Jet Magazine, Ebony Magazine, Small Business of the Year in Michigan. I've seen him bring it to the top. I've seen him go all the way to the bottom. And I've seen him start again with $1,000 and bring it back to the top.
Amen.
And I think my flowers go to him. And I love you, Dad. And I'm very grateful for you to be here as well. And then just also failure of like, we lost my mom last year, and that can be viewed as a failure, but we've taken it in strength and learned how to grow and overcome that. And overcoming those things, you can't fail. Like, you can't. You just got to keep going. I had to give my dad a
No,
slap.
of course.
Can I add on? Because I did answer a question.
Go ahead, Brett.
Thank you.
And we going over behind the scenes.
Thank you. I feel like my answer to that question is like, I don't know, I feel like it's unpopular. I honestly don't think that I failed at anything. I know that sounds very like, whoa, who are you? What are you talking about? But I can't think for myself on something that I look back on my journey and say, man, like, I dropped the ball here, I didn't do that right. I mean, have there been setbacks? Have there been things that I didn't anticipate that I had to adjust to? But nothing that I can think back and say like failure. Like failure is a strong word. Yeah. Like that word has power, right? And it's just not a word that I really accept, honestly. I think there's growth, but failure, no.
Well, thank you, everyone. We are right at time for joining us. We got one more over here. Sorry about that.
Somebody got to get his mic on.
There we go.
Cut the mic off.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's an honor to be here. I'm an old school business owner. Some would say a dinosaur, considering today. To be here, to be with these young people doing what they're doing, it's amazing. When I came up, it was only one or two of us doing what I'm doing today. I'm proud of Jamerson. He's always been a kid that wouldn't listen.
That's the best kind of kid.
He still is.
He knew what he wanted, and he would go after it. I'm just going to say this. I worked for General Motors 30 years. I've had a business for 30 years. When Jamerson graduated, he told me he was going to New York. And I got him a job at GM to be on management, and he would never go to the interview. And I remember when I went in General Motors, I never wanted to go in there. But circumstances, I ended up there for 30 years, but it was a good place for me to be. It helped me start my business and raise my family. But Jamerson took the bull by the horn and went to New York, and I was one of the ones that told him, man, look, I can't afford to pay for you in New York and take care of my home. He didn't care. And he went, and I'm proud of him for chasing his dream and doing exactly what he wanted to do. I never understood what he was doing. I'm like, confused. When he was working and he's saying, Dad, I'm leaving my job. And I'm like, what you gonna do? You know, how you gonna make money? And when he told me about branding and social media and y'all been talking about followers, you know, it's old school, we don't know what that is. And when he told me how he make money, I said, wow, I'm working too hard. But I'm proud of you. Y'all doing a good job. If you have a passion, go after it.
Yeah.
You know, when I started my business, it was so many people around me that told me, don't quit my day job. But when you know what's in you, you can always get a job.
Yep.
Go after your dream.
Thank you, Dad.
Hey, that's powerful. He needed it.